Don't chew on it. With your mouth. You are so naughty.
And up for nursery today, didn't I? Just got temperature. Side five. Oh, yeah! He's like, right, how do I get into this?
Take it out of your mouth. No, you are so naughty. Cough all over it. That's it, and then put it in your mouth. Lovely. And this is why your mummy is still suffering. Cold, yeah, and a cough.
So it's Friday. And I had to go and pick little man up for nursery today, didn't I? Just got temperature. Don't really know why yet, do we? He's been asleep most of the afternoon, haven't you? He's been a bit sick, but I think that was just because of his cough. Sometimes when he coughs a lot, it makes him bring up sick, basically. Oh, you little bub, aren't you? Yeah, he's still on antibiotics for his ear infection, so it's obviously about, like, if he's got a temperature, it's got to be some virus. So I'm just wondering whether chicken pox will come up in the next day or so, or hand, foot and mouth, or I don't know. Boy bub. Ready? High five. Yeah. Higher five. Yeah. Low five. Yeah. Side five. Side five. Oh, yeah. Little did I know that in like a few hours he would get really sick. I even took him out for the day shopping with my best mate and my stepdaughter, and he was fine. But that evening, it all went a bit deep. It's like, right, how do I get into this? This is your needless one for the non-meat eater. So he really started to struggle here, and he was coughing so bad. So this is the evening of the shop. And then it just got worse. And then in the morning, his breathing was really fast and he was sucking in under the ribs, shown here a little bit. So I called 111 and they basically sent out an ambulance more or less straight away. And yeah, we went to the children's A&E department. So it was confirmed he had RSV and bronchitis. And this is a nebulizer. It basically just opens his airways and helps him breathe a bit easier. Do you want to tell people where you've been? No? Is it in here? I don't even know if it's in here. They got hospital in here. Probably not. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it's nothing wrong with him now, doesn't it? But little man here has been in hospital, haven't you? He was there all day yesterday, right up until about 3 a.m. this morning, which was beautiful. Had a little ride in the ambulance, didn't we? Yeah. I don't know if you can hear it, but his breathing and his cough. He's been playing though since he woke up at 6 o'clock for the last hour. Like nothing has happened. You're going to crash and burn in a minute though, I think, because he hasn't eaten a lot, hasn't drank a lot. I don't know, but yeah, let me fill you in. As you can see, he's just completely out of it. He's quite weak, still breathing weird, but luckily he's at home. He's not in hospital, and they did give him like an inhaler to help him with his airways, to help him breathe. He's still not eating and drinking at this point, which is why he just runs out of energy after playing. So yeah, we watched a lot of films. He particularly liked Mary Poppins, as you can see. We did actually have another trip back to A&E because I took him to the doctors because I was still concerned that he hadn't been eating and drinking. And if he was, it was very little. Like, he was very dehydrated. His lips were so, like, dry. He lost quite a bit of weight, and the antibiotics that they gave him for the bronchitis was giving him diarrhea, which was making him more dehydrated, so I was really scared. And when he initially went into A&E, his blood sugar was really low, so I was worried it would crash again. So yeah, went back to the doctors, and the doctors basically sent us back to A&E, and then A&E sent us home with a throat spray to use, which did not help whatsoever. He just didn't want to eat, full stop, whether his throat was numbed or not, do you know what I mean? So yeah, it took a long time to finally get back on track, but we got there. I found like using his yoghurt pouches and putting stuff in that helped a little bit because he loves a yoghurt pouch. But as you can see here, he's playing again and he's fine, and then he'll crash and burn again. So, where do we start, little man? Where do we start? So, I think one of the last clips you saw was obviously us saying that we picked him up from nursery with a temperature on Friday. It's now Thursday, so it's been almost a week since he had his temperature. You was feeling okay Saturday, wasn't you? So we went shopping and went and found Demi, didn't we? What have you done? You just poke it in your eye. That's not good. Yeah, because you were okay Saturday, wasn't you? You had a bit of a temperature Friday night, at about 6 o'clock, and then nothing all night, and he was fine in the morning. So yeah, we went out, didn't we? We went shopping, and he was fine. And then coming to go home, he threw up everywhere, but he's had this cough for ages now, and sometimes it does make him sick if he coughs too much. So I put it down to that. Yeah, so that was all over his car seat, so that was fun clearing that up. But then after that, once we got in, maybe a couple hours later, he did actually have a temperature again. So then I felt really guilty, didn't I, for even taking you out. And then basically got worse from then on, didn't you, really? So Sunday, you were just very unsettled Sunday, wasn't you? Oh, you're not watching this anymore. Are you rewinding it? Yeah, so Sunday, he was very unsettled. Couldn't really get you to just chill out, could we? He had, I think, maybe one temperature. And his cough on Saturday seemed more barky, and so it did on Sunday as well. So I was beginning to wonder if it was croup. Anyway, later on that night, I put you in the bath, didn't I? And that's when I noticed that his breathing was really bad. Like, I hadn't noticed how he was sucking in, like, around his ribs before. So I spoke to my mum, I video called her, because you know when you're a bit like, am I overthinking it or over-exaggerating, or can she see it as well? And she could. It wasn't, like, really bad, but, you know, it was pretty bad. And then that night, it was pretty awful, wasn't it? You had quite a lot of temperatures. He was coughing a lot. Ended up sleeping downstairs with you, didn't I? And then, following day, I tried to get hold of the doctors. We didn't have a call back for ages, did we? We were like in the queue for ages, so I ended up calling 111. And funnily enough, when I was on the phone to 111, that's when the doctors decided to basically do our call back. Obviously, didn't answer to them because I was in the middle of talking to 111. And yeah, they straight away were like, he needs an ambulance. So the ambulance came out and it all sort of kicked off from there, really. Yeah, so from start to finish, we didn't have a very good experience in the hospital. And in total, we were there for, I think, about 16 hours in the end. And the whole time we were there, I can't say they actually did much to help him. In the end, they discharged us about 2:30 in the morning, I think. And by this point, he still hadn't had a dirty nappy since that morning. So like since about 6 in the morning, hadn't had dirty nappy or wet nappy. He hadn't really drank or eaten anything and kept it down, and they were happy to send him home. They kept talking about giving an IV, and in the end they decided against it. I don't really know why, because he was cannulated and everything ready. They decided they wanted to just try and actually give him fluids. Oh, oopsie! Yeah, they tried to actually want to give him fluids instead. But like this is like at midnight when we finally got onto a ward as well, because they kept saying they were going to admit us, and then it took like 8 hours just to admit us. And then we were there for like 2 hours. They were trying to get him to have fluids, and obviously he doesn't want fluids at like midnight. He's asleep. I kept thinking like, just put a drip in him, like he's asleep. But they wouldn't, and in the end they were like, oh, maybe he'd be better at home, and then he'll have fluids and food in the morning when he wakes up. I'm thinking, yeah, but you've only got like 3 more hours and he'll be awake. Why disturb him now to take him home? Like, just, why can't we stay here? I don't know, it just seemed like we basically sat around all day to be sent home. They did give him a couple of nebulizers. But yeah, there was so much that went on. I mean, from start to finish. So the ambulance apparently didn't do a handover. So we were left waiting because they didn't know we were even there in the waiting room, which is BS because I saw them do the handover. They then, about 6 hours in, after doing all these obs and giving him nebulizers and, you know, notes of what they discussed, they then lost the notes. And then when they finally found the notes... Oh, when they lost the notes as well, he had a temperature and they couldn't decide whether they were allowed to give him Calpol or not, because they didn't know what they decided on, whether he was going to have IV or whether they were going to give it to him by mouth. But they were a bit like, if we give it to him by mouth, he might be sick, and then we don't know whether to give him anything else, the temperature. It was very... Taylor, what are you doing? No. Hang on. Yeah, and all this time while they were discussing what to do, he obviously had a temperature, and then it was clear that they had lost his notes. They didn't actually know what to do with him in the end. Anyway, and then they found the notes, and then they decided to give him Nurofen and Calpol. And then they said that he had to do a swab before. So we'd been waiting to be admitted, by the way. They kept saying that we were going to get admitted to the paediatrician ward. And we'd already been waiting for like 3 or 4 hours by this point, maybe longer. They then decided that he needed to do a swab to find out if he was positive to COVID, RSV and something else. Because they said if he was, they wouldn't take him onto the ward. I was thinking, great. Like, why did they not eliminate these when we first turned up? Because we had all the symptoms for those. I just didn't think that they would do swabs on children. So, after all of that, they then decided to do this swab. And then, as they're walking away, they said, right, we'll have those results in 2 hours. I was like... 2 hours. We then had to wait another 2 hours just to find out his results of his swab. And then they came back and told us he was positive for RSV, and that was the problem. That's why he was so ill. Blah, blah, blah. And they said, you're lucky. I was thinking, are we? Yeah, we're lucky apparently because the ward had agreed, or the paediatric ward had agreed, that there was a room where children were at the moment that had just RSV, so he could have, and there was a spare bed for him to go in. Thinking, how are we lucky? Like, you've literally taken the piss all day. Yeah, and then like I said, we were literally there for about 2 hours, and then they discharged us. Anyway, jumping forward, sorry about the noise in the background. Jumping forward to now, as you can probably hear in the background, he does have episodes of where he gets a bit of energy and he plays and stuff, which is really good, even though he's very destructive. And then he will just crash and burn because obviously he's still not right. So yeah, the following morning after the hospital, so we went in on Monday, got in early hours of Tuesday. Tuesday he was actually a lot perkier, a lot, you know, with it. He was playing a bit, he even ate a little bit. Come Wednesday, he wasn't eating anything, wasn't drinking anything, and then he had diarrhoea. And he was like that again this morning, but you did have a little bit of food, didn't you? And then he had diarrhoea again. You've had diarrhoea about 3 times since, haven't you? Since you had something to eat. He crashed out for most of the afternoon. Nanny and Grandad came and looked after you for a bit, didn't they? Yeah. Because Mummy has her own hospital appointment. And then you've just perked up a little bit again. I reckon that's probably the little bit of food that you had this afternoon, like this evening. So you had some apple, didn't you? You managed to have some apple? Managed to have some apple, didn't you? Yeah. And what else did you have? You had a bit of like puree, but you wasn't that keen. What else did you have? Oh, bye-bye. Bit of cheese and toast? Very small amount though. And when I say small amount, I mean like this amount. He's literally in small bits. But small bits is better than no bits, isn't it? Considering he used to have about 6 meals a day. So yeah, that's where we're at. But every day, well, I say every day, it's very up and down. Like I said yesterday, he was completely wiped out for most of it. But today you're perkier again. You're back to being like he was on Tuesday. Tuesday morning though, he was awful. You were properly dehydrated and just not with it. But yeah, we're getting there, aren't we, mate? Hopefully we're through the worst of it now. But yeah, the breathing's really bad. So yeah, I'll tell you the symptoms that he had. Oh my god. So you know what to sort of look out for. So like I said, he's had an ongoing cough for ages, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't anything to do with it. But then he started getting really red eyes, and apparently this can be an RSV symptom. And I took him to the doctors, and the doctors said it was eczema. He also had an earache, ear infection, sorry. So he was put on some more antibiotics. So yeah, he had an ear infection and had red eyes. Red eyes, they say, is part of RSV. And then yeah, he had a temperature on Friday, so we picked him up from the nursery. So like they're the first 2 things. Then he had like this cough, and it was different to the cough that he had before. It was like a lot harsher, like just more forceful, I guess. And it was quite constant, like most of the day. On Saturday and Sunday, he was coughing lots. He also had like a really runny nose, which he hadn't had before. So I was almost a bit like, maybe he's got another cold on top of this one that he's still trying to get rid of. And then that evening, like I said, Sunday evening, it was his breathing that really like made me think something's not right here. So he was sucking in under the ribs, like underneath here, like there's literally like going in and out, and up here as well is proper sucking in, like that. That's another indication that it wasn't right. And then obviously he had gone completely off his food, didn't want his milk, was barely drinking any water. And I was like, this isn't right. He's doing less wheezing in his nappy, less poos. What other symptoms did you have, little man? He had a lot of gas. No poos, but a lot of smelly gas. I'm trying to think what else you had. Obviously, yeah, he was just awake quite a lot of the night, coughing and breathing weird. And just constantly lethargic, wanting to sleep. Not really alert to anything, very drowsy. But yeah, as you can see, so as you can see, this is him now. And yeah, he looks like a normal, healthy child, apart from the odd cough. He kept being sick, that was another thing. He couldn't keep anything down, and just started spewing like water up. Whatever he was eating, he was bringing it back up. And now the only thing he really coughs up is his own phlegmy mucus. From what they said, they reckon he had bronchitis, or he's got bronchitis. He's also on antibiotics as well, aren't you, little man, at the moment? Which I believe is what's giving him the diarrhea. So we're going to go to the doctors tomorrow to find out whether he actually needs to be on these antibiotics, or if there's something else we can do. I say that because he was on antibiotics when he started getting this problem, so they sort of said to me it's unlikely that it's a bacterial thing, it's more likely to be the viral version of bronchitis, because the antibiotics would have sorted it out. So I don't really know why they then prescribed antibiotics. I think they just did it as a precaution. And then he's also got a inhaler to help him with his breathing. So yeah, he's on that. And you've got your little mask, haven't you? Which he sort of likes sometimes and hates it other times. But yeah, we'll get there, won't we, little man? Right, shall we get in your pyjamas? Yeah. Yeah, he's been sleeping here. Excuse the mess. You can see Iggle. We've been sleeping down here, haven't we, mate? Right, anyway, that was my long spiel, and hopefully I'll catch up with you soon. Anyway, say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah. Bye. Ah, that's cute.